And now, it's that time of the week once again. Welcome to the Departure Lounge podcast with your hosts, Tom Whittle and Steve Wooldridge. Your ticket to the home of aviation podcasts. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight.
Very good evening, everybody, to what is episode number 40. We've reached the big 4-0 here this evening, which is a huge milestone for us. So welcome to the Departure Lounge podcast here on the Departure Lounge YouTube channel. My name is Tom Whittle, and joining me this evening for this, what's supposed to be a festive special, but is sort of slightly turning not into one, is Steve Wooldridge. Steve, very good evening to you. How are you?
Yeah, no, good evening, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the festive spirit, unless, of course, you don't support Christianity, then enjoy good TV on Saturday instead. But other than that, doing well, thank you.
Excellent stuff. Excellent. Also joining us for this very festive, except it's not now, Q&A / going over the news topics of the last sort of 7 days is, once he's ready, I think he is. He's not looking.
I'm good to go, yeah.
There he is. Ian Hartley.
Yeah, sorry, I've just been looking for my Christmas hat and I haven't got a clue what I did with it. So I can't put my Christmas hat on, so I'll just have to put it with Santa's glasses instead.
You know, you've had half an hour to do this, right?
I've had a week to do it, to be fair.
You had an entire week to find it. An entire week.
No.
But, no. Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, you?
I'm in great spirits. Like,
you, Steve?
Fantastic.
Yeah, no, all good. Thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm all right. Sore on, got my booster today. Jab.
Yeah.
All
jab,
good,
jab, squirt.
Yep.
No. But yes, so welcome to you. Also joining us, and one of maybe two guests this evening that's going to be talking about the news topics of the week. He was the guest on episode 9. He came in for our episode on the Antonov 225, and he's back with us this evening to go over the news topics of the week. It is, of course, Samuel Taylor Ackroyd, as I've put Scotland's favourite plane spotter. Sam, how are you? How are you this evening?
Good evening, all. I am all right. Thank you very much. And thank you once again for having me for however many times now, for having me on the podcast.
I believe it's your third appearance now. I think the most appearances, I think.
Probably like 4 or something like that.
Yeah, your trick ball.
But who's counting?
You'll be taking Steve's job soon.
You are. Yeah. Well, if the internet keeps crashing, then we can have it on, yeah.
Absolutely. Just a little comment in there from Grey Blue saying that she's unliking because Ian doesn't have a Christmas hat on.
She's probably the one who's lost it, to be fair.
Do you let her get away with calling you Ian?
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. You should stop calling me Ian.
Words after the show, I'm sure. But let's go into some housekeeping first before we go on to the main sort of bulk of the show. So if you wish to follow us on any of our social medias, we are on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we're on Facebook throughout the evening. We'll be bringing up all of the social medias that we have in regards to us and Steve and Ian, and so you can give their guys a follow as well. First post has just gone down, lovely. Sign of things to come for the show. Secondly, we do have a merch shop, so if you wish to check that out, please do so. It's in the description below, as well as the social medias for all of us. Do check out the shop. There's some more stuff coming soon once the new year hits, so one to keep an eye out on. eye out on. I always get confused when I say that sort of thing. And lastly, if you wish to be a guest on the show, such as Sam or anybody in the near future that has signed up to do so, all you got to do is drop us a message on any of our social medias, and we will get you onto the show as soon as we can. Just one comment in there from Bradley Penny Aviation says a good evening to us. So a good evening
Yeah,
to
good evening to you, Brad.
you.
Yeah.
Evening,
Mate,
Bradley.
right.
Mm.
So, as the thumbnail suggests, this is a Q&A. So you can literally ask us anything. It doesn't have to be aviation related. You can be as candid as you like, or you can be as soft as you like, I guess, in terms of asking us anything. We'll do our best to answer it. So put it into the chat as the evening goes on, and then we will get it answered for you. But until then, we are going to go over some news topics from the week and discuss them and get your opinions on them as well. So the first topic that we are going to bring up for this evening is on the 20th of December, so a couple of days ago, so what's that, Monday, a lot of pictures and ideas floating around about a new airline in Norway called Norse, who sort of look to sort of take over some of the Norwegian sort of flights and everything. Well, they've taken their first delivery of their first 787-9 aircraft. Now, this is a previous Norwegian aircraft which has been in storage since 2019 and flew to Austria for some maintenance, and then decided that they were going to buy it, and they have done it. It's the first of 15 on order. So the question that I pose first is, in terms of the airline itself, how long do we think it's going to be a successful one, or do we think it's going to be sort of a flash in the pan kind of airline? We'll go with Sam first.
Well, I think only time will tell, to be honest. I mean, here we've seen all the things that have happened with Norwegian, and let's just see if North Atlantic will do any better. I mean, so far they're doing pretty good when it comes to 787 orders, because I mean they've got a total of 15 so far in order, including 12 of the Dash 9s and the 3 of the smaller Dash 8s.
Absolutely.
So yeah, only time will tell is all I really have to say about that.
Yes, absolutely. Bjorn Torn Larsen, or the CEO and founder of North Atlantic, said that the delivery of their first Dreamliner marks an important milestone for us at Team Norse, as it brings us one step closer to the launch of attractive and affordable transatlantic flights. Ian, kind of sounds a bit like Norwegian, doesn't it?
Well, I was just thinking, have they got any of these transatlantic flights set in stone yet, or not?
Probably from what the long haul side of Norwegian used to sort of do. I think in terms of like I imagine they'll go like New York and the places that they used to go to before Norwegian when they were doing long haul stuff. So I imagine that that's kind of what they're looking at and trying to make it as affordable as possible.
I'm sure that's what they're planning, but putting it into practice is another thing, isn't it? I mean, it's no good ordering all these planes and then for them to turn around and say, well, we can't get any slots to New York, can't get any slots to Orlando or whatever, because they're going to come unstuck, aren't they? I mean, I don't know, they work their business, but I'm sure I would try and get the slots put into place first and then pop the planes into it afterwards. I would have secured the slots before I bought the planes. That's what, I'm not an airline boss, or, I don't know how it works, but I'm sure that's what I would have done. So it remains to be seen, doesn't it?
It does.
It seems to be a very, very, very for something what wants to be big, because you can tell when you read the news about it and things like that. I think they've got ambition, but it's very, very low key as well. At the same time, it's sort of going under the radar, isn't it? So I think it remains to be seen.
Absolutely.
I think when we watched, I was going to say, when we watched Jer's video last week, all those Dreamliners parked up, Norwegian Dreamliners parked up in Shannon, we don't currently have a use. It seems like a little bit of a gamble in this sort of climate, especially with how uncertain it's all become again recently, to make that sort of investment. But if they can get it to work, they'll probably see off Norwegian in the process, unfortunately, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so Norwegian have only sort of recently begun to bring their flights back into service. I know Sam's been keeping a close eye on Norwegian and their sort of their 737 flights and that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
About the 737 flight.
Like they've recently brought them back, haven't they? And you're due to go on one, aren't you?
Yeah, I am actually. I'm due to go on one, but yeah, I don't really know too much about the 737 flights. To be honest, I can't really tell you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's all right.
Where are you travelling to and from?
I'll be traveling next year. I'm not going to say when, because for two reasons. One, I don't want to be stalked, and two, I don't know if it's going to go ahead because of the new Omicron variant of COVID.
Of course.
If we went onto another lockdown and more restrictions came into place, I don't know if it'll get moved or not. But me and my dad plan on flying out from Edinburgh to Stockholm, Arlanda, for 3 days to stay in the Jumbo hostel in the cockpit suite as well. Believe it or not.
Oh, fantastic!
Oh, wow, that'd be some
cool,
experience for it to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, normally I can't really tell you any news on what's going on with the current 737 flights, but I think a few of their 737 Maxes have left certain airports. The one that was parked up at Edinburgh Airport has left. It left a wee bit of time ago, but I unfortunately wasn't able to go see it, but it was wet weather anyway.
Can we say that a trip report will be coming from you from the hotel?
Oh yes, absolutely. You'll see a tour. You'll get me talking about the history after all the research I've done. In fact, I'll even send it to you later. You'll be amazed.
Okay. Yeah, we look forward to that. Definitely look forward to that.
Yeah, see how much you can steal off it as well.
Yeah. So you can steal any safety cards and stuff like Steve does.
Yeah. No. I was encouraged.
Of course not. In answer to what Ian was asking earlier in terms of the flights that they are looking at, it says that in September, Norse disclosed that an initial 3 routes would be from Oslo to Fort Lauderdale, Ontario, which is in Los Angeles, not the Canadian one, and Stewart, which is a New York-based airport. So they're looking at not such the big, not the big sort of players and airports and stuff, purely for operational reasons. It's going to be cheaper to fly to these airports than it is to fly to LAX or JFK. And these are based on the gap left by Norwegian, which scrapped long-haul flying to concentrate on its core and successful short-haul market, which, again, like we said, is what they've basically been looking at the moment.
Yeah.
It's when they turned into a European low-cost carrier like Wizz Air, no, not Wizz Air, because they fly to Dubai, Ryanair, and EasyJet.
Absolutely.
Those kinds of airlines.
Definitely, yeah.
Go
on.
I was going to say, didn't Norwegian briefly or currently still hold the quickest non-supersonic transatlantic flight, like under 6 hours, wasn't it? They did it in like a few years ago now. Do you remember seeing that news item?
I do. But did the BA 747 not?
The BA 747 beat it, didn't it?
It beat it by a good hour and a bit, didn't it?
Yeah,
Was it really?
Heard
Yeah,
something similar briefly about that.
So Norwegian held the record to begin with. After they did it in about, I want to say, what was it, an hour or so? It must have been, but it was like they did it in about 5 hours something, and then BA smashed it with like 4 hours and 50 odd minutes.
Oh yeah, it must have got right in the jet stream and a bit of
because of the jet stream
tailwind. Yeah, huge.
Because of the jet stream. Yeah, so the jet stream caused that to happen. So yeah, Norwegian did hold it, and then the BA 747 smashed it. And I think even to this day now that it still stands with the BA 747.
Yeah, BA flew from New York to London in 4 hours and 56 minutes.
Not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Some going, isn't it?
Definitely not bad at all. For a 747 as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of headwind. Yeah, get headwind, you get that extra push. So that's kind of what
it was in Storm Cara. He had Storm Cara pushing it.
That was what it was.
Female power and all that.
Yep, that's it. All for equality.
Absolutely. But yeah, there's a lot of talk at the moment as well in terms of, because they're taking over the long haul side of Norwegian's operations, whether they'll operate from Gatwick. As we know, Norwegian had a UK base at Gatwick and flew to places like Buenos Aires and New York as well to offer out affordable flights.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did New York, and they did operate to Orlando, Florida as well. They with their Dreamliner, and I think probably with either one time or possibly regular thing, I don't know, with their Airbus A340s.
Yeah, they used to fly they used to sort of bring it in as a sort of a leased aircraft as well. I remember there's a lot of talk about that, and even having like small titles and things like that. But there is talk of a UK base for Norse once they get going.
Quite possibly, I would imagine. I mean, BA are going to use Gatwick as well, aren't they, for a hub for the regional flights, aren't they?
As they
under
so.
something else, like club. I can't remember what it's called, but they're supposed to be under the name of something if they start operating a base at Gatwick once again, like they did a few years ago. Of course, before all this stuff that's happening just now happened.
Like a club, is it Club Flyer or something?
Club Fly or something like that.
Yeah, completely different company, isn't it? Like, obviously, it carries the British Airways livery and a name, but it isn't actually the same company, so it operates.
It's going to be a standalone company.
Standalone.
It'll be a bit like City Flyer at London City, I think, but like a Gatwick version.
Well, it mitigates British Airways risk on it, doesn't it? It's not a bad idea.
It does, but then at the same time, you have to then ask, could you not add more planes to the fleet of City Fly? Add more planes to the fleet of City Fly and then take them to Gatwick and go from there. So many questions you could ask about that. You could do an entire show on it. But there is talk of it happening. It says, whilst Norse will likely serve London using Gatwick, as the airport's chief commercial officer recently told the author of Simple Flying, it isn't yet certain. It hasn't received slots at Gatwick, which was obviously, like you said, Norwegian's main long-haul base in the UK. So at the moment, North Atlantic have applied for and received slots for Stansted instead, which is going to be an interesting one for anybody that's Stansted spotter. But there is talk that they are expected to move from Stansted to Gatwick once they get up and going and have the revenue there to be able to kind of justify them doing it. So there's a lot to look out for North Atlantic. And I also want to kind of ask around the room here what we think about the actual livery of Norse. I think you've all seen the livery.
I'm just going to have a quick
have a quick Google.
I'm looking at one right now.
I have done, but I need to refresh my mind. I've slept since then.
You have slept since then.
I'm looking at it just now, actually, and personally, I mean, it does look fairly basic, but I actually do like how it's blue and white. I guess you could say kind of a modern style in those colors, even though there's more than one kind of blue.
Yeah.
Whether or not it looks just as good with the engines. In fact, here's a good question for the audience. If you look at the Norse livery, would you think the Rolls-Royce engines would look better in the current blue or the standard white?
It's I quite like the blue, but maybe I would go with the darker shade of blue as opposed to what's on the tail. So like you've got the two-tone blue, but I'd go with the darker color of blue, I think that will probably help it a little bit more.
See, it's kind of hard for me to determine which one would look better or not, because you don't have a picture with a dark blue as well, because I don't think they have that.
Yeah, Steve,
it's obviously the standard kind of Euro white that we've come to expect on everything these days, but it's quite a nice design. I'm with Tom. I'd go for the dark blue on the engines. I think for me, it's obviously got that sort of British Airways feel to it, but the rest of the aircraft's so different that you wouldn't associate it, if you know what I mean. But I just think the darker blue's just sort of a lot classier than a light blue, personally.
Yeah, I think so. Ian, agree or disagree and keep the blue?
I quite like it. Yeah, I quite like the pale blue engine cowlings there. What I'm not a massive. I do like the livery. Don't get me wrong. Now I always find a negative in it, but it just
Do you?
Yeah, of course I do. But if you cut to, obviously it's Euro white with Norse written in big letters at the front there. But is it not just the back end's just Boeing Dreamliner anyway? Are you with me? Does that not?
Yeah,
if
I
you were
see
to
what you mean.
Take the word Norse off it and put your hand over the white part of the plane and just look at the blue bit, and you've just got a Boeing Dreamliner livery, have you not? Or is that
Yeah, I
just me?
see where you're coming from a little bit.
With the blue and the curved line going through it.
I'm going to say you've been on the old wacky backy, I think.
Yeah, well, you know. It's a nice livery, though. Don't get me wrong, I do like it.
It's one of the better ones, I think, in
Yeah,
terms
definitely.
of what you could.
Yeah, it's lovely.
It's not the best looking, however, I'll admit I do quite like it. And yeah, you said I think you said that North is new, isn't it?
Mm.
Oh,
Yet to
all I
launch,
can really
but
do
they
is
will do
wish
soon,
them
yeah.
luck and
Absolutely, yeah.
hope they hopefully they turn out better than Norwegian. And by that, I don't mean as in, for customers' sake. I just, as in, like, treat the customers better and for the customer satisfaction. I just mean for, financially and with their routes and an airline as a whole.
I think so. I think they'll do all right to begin with. I think they'll do all right to begin with, and then the rest will be sort of waiting to be seen and go from there. So,
could you see potentially in 3 or 4 years' time, 5 years' time, perhaps maybe a merger between the two if they're both not doing as well as like, whether they'd end up merging with a bit of sort of government funding or whatever to sort of have a
3
national
years is a
airline.
bit short. I mean, of course, I
Well,
don't
I
know
just
how
say further down the
airlines
line.
work when it comes to merging. These days, I don't know how long it takes, but of course, it'll take a lot of negotiation and agreeing. So, well, I mean, Norse is still fairly new. I mean, even at 3 years old, it's still fairly young. So, I feel like maybe not 3 years, but I don't know. And
down
as
the
I've
line
already said,
somewhere,
only
maybe.
time will tell.
I can't see it.
Yeah.
I can't see it happening. I think that's kind of, what Norse is, like North Atlantic is it's to kind of, at least in my opinion, take Norwegian out the picture completely. And then North Atlantic then become like Norway's airline sort of thing. I think that's kind of what the plan is here, because they're already taking planes from Norwegian that, we discussed with Joe last week, that some of them are still sat there and they've never carried a passenger. And so because they've been sat there for so long, they've had to go back to their,
In fact, something I actually wonder at this moment just now is, are they doing it have they recently been created to compete with Norwegian, or are they just trying to take over from them if, something were happen to them that caused them to go bust, because they've been struggling financially for the last few years now, and yet, well, they've done well to survive for a low-cost carrier, even after all the sacrifices they've made.
Could slightly be seen as an Alitalia / ITA Norwegian version. So they've taken Norwegian. They're going to take Norwegian out of it, and the replacement is North Atlantic. Could be that. It could be that
Could
sort of
be
option
something
as well.
similar.
So definitely one to kind of keep an eye on, and we wish them the best of luck. It's not easy to launch an airline, especially nowadays. But fingers crossed that it can actually work out well for them.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there was a place for both of them in the market, but I don't see it. I think Norwegian are probably on borrowed time, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I think that looks like the kind of carrier what IAG would go for. I think because in that part of Northern Europe, with those routes, what it will be taking, and I think if Norse did become a viable prospect and did need a cash injection, I would say that someone like IAG would go in there and try and snap them up, to be honest, and then wipe Norwegian off map. Give it 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I hope not, because IAG are like a virus in the airline world. Not many, I don't approve of them.
They were trying to take over. Were it Europa or somebody or other?
I think it's Air Europa.
Is it? Yeah, they had it stopped, didn't they? Back Monopolies Commission or whatever they call themselves.
Very good. Good knowledge.
Yeah.
Good knowledge. Thanks, Google. So,
and that wasn't Google, because I'm still looking at that page. So there you go.
Very good. We can see your history.
Yeah,
So we'll
dodgy
just,
as
No,
well.
you don't want to see my history.
no,
Yeah.
definitely not. Rob Brown Plain Spotting says transatlantic is a tricky market for a low cost carrier. I think we can agree with that, can't we?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We've had lots of airlines in
yeah.
the past try this, going back to like sort of mid 2000s as well. If we're going to go that far, like off the top of my head, and I'll remember them as like Silverjet. Anyone remember Silverjet in here?
Doesn't ring
the blank looks
a
as
bell
no.
for me.
Yeah.
So Silverjet were a executive sort of UK airline that operated out of Stansted to places like New York and stuff to offer a different kind of service. Didn't last very long. There was an American airline called EOS, which had 757s, which offered to do the same thing. This was mid 2000s. Didn't last very long at all. There was just trying to rattle off. There was one in particular with a really ugly livery, which was, I think, was the UK International Airlines, which operated 767-200s. It was a really horrible, like purple livery. I don't think they lasted very long either. So lots of people, lots of airlines have tried to do this low cost carrier, especially Norwegian as well, and it's obviously not panning out to be
No.
the best at this moment.
Could
I
you
think
throw
they're
JetBlue
saving-
into that?
JetBlue are trying it, but it hasn't exactly failed at this point.
No, but they're on the same ilk.
Yeah.
I would say that the noisy saving grace is that they are flying to places where there's no other English carrier goes.
Low
that's probably the
operating
saving
costs
grace.
as well.
Yeah, low operating costs. It's whether there is a market for people and whether there is. I mean, where were you saying was a place in Florida?
Fort Lauderdale.
In Florida. Now, whether flying to Fort Lauderdale or flying to Orlando would make that much of a financial difference in a flight package or something, the convenience of flying to Orlando and the inconvenience of flying to Fort Lauderdale, you're going to weigh up the pros and cons, I think, haven't you, from a passenger's point of view?
Absolutely.
So it remains to be seen, doesn't it?
And then Rob Rampling's point says, I don't think Norwegian will play that long haul game again, especially using the current business model, which is obviously, like mentioned, to focus on their short haul.
Short haul flights with their
works for them,
737.
which works for them at the moment. So there's no need to go into that again.
Yeah, I think you find that a lot of these short haul carriers, there's a lot of success through your EasyJets, your Ryanair, even people like Southwest and Frontier and all them lot. They're really, really successful when it comes to short haul. But as soon as people start dabbling into the long haul market, that's when they start coming unstuck. And I think there's a place for the long haul market. And I don't think these low cost carriers should even be attempting to go into the long haul because it seems to be their undoing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
doesn't it kind of defeat
you could
the
dream of
purpose
Ryanair flying transatlantic.
Definitely not
that.
Ryanair flying transatlantic.
Good
Never
God.
would you ever picture that. In fact,
Yeah,
the only
they need
kinds of
stronger
long haul
elastics in their
flights they should
engines.
focus on is their places in Europe down to the Canary Islands.
That's about as far as they go, and I think
That's as far as they want to go, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
they don't need to. They
And
don't
they've
need
got
to.
it
The only
now.
place outside of Europe
do
they even go.
They don't need to, do they? They're making that's their business model, and it works perfectly well for them, doesn't it? So
and other
why-
airlines do it too. So I mean,
absolutely.
even though of course
Why
airlines
fix
are
it if
always
it's not broad?
competing with each other, and they often try and put planes on the same route to compete with them. But when you, like I've already said, even though you've got other airlines which you should be competing with, they're already doing the routes, and people are happy enough traveling with them, and yet other people are happy traveling with other airlines on the routes that they're currently traveling on. So there's not really any need to try and boost it unless there's a lot of demand or if you have a lot of money. But yeah, don't risk it if you're a low cost carrier.
No.
No.
Rob Brown Plain Spotting saying that going all the way back to Laker Airways using a low cost model didn't turn out too well way back in the 80s using DC-10s. I think it's not so much for Laker anyway. It's not so much a case of it didn't work out for them. It was just the fact that they were pretty, as we discussed, a couple episodes ago, when we were talking about airlines that were sort of no longer with us. They were kind of almost like I think we said they were almost like bullied, weren't they? They were almost bullied out of the sky because everyone sort of thought that it all kind of wanted a piece of the business model that they were producing, wasn't it?
Yeah, they never liked what they were doing.
But yeah, they were incredibly well. He was incredibly pioneering.
Definitely. Let's move on to our second story that we have here. So, as we know, the end of an era was kind of on its way, and we kind of didn't want that day to come. However, it did. And the very last Emirates A380 and the last A380 in production was delivered. It was frighteningly their 123rd Airbus A380 in the fleet. This marked the end of the production of the A380. So about 200 and something were produced. I don't have the official figure. And of course, now there's going to be no more A380s built. So quite a bit of a sad sort of bowing out of an airliner, which I think we've already discussed is right plane, wrong time sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah, obviously,
probably the right
I've got
thing to.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's fine. I mean, I was just going to say. Sorry, I was just going to say that that's probably the right phrase for the A380. And I think this is probably the which day was it that it was delivered by Airbus?
It was delivered.
Just over the weekend, weren't it? Yeah, just over last weekend, weren't it?
Yeah.
It took its first flight, I think, today, didn't it?
It's probably the day that I think a lot of people wish didn't come. In fact, especially for such a young aircraft.
Yeah, Thursday last week it was. Thursday last week it was when it was delivered. But like Sam was saying, it's for an airliner that sort of first took flight 2005, came into service 2007, I think it was.
It was.
And now 14 years later, it's already going out of service because airlines don't want it. The likes of Air France, even though there was rumours that Air France wanted to get theirs back, hasn't materialised. And there's a lot of people in the aviation industry that reckon that the A380 will set the tone for the future. So at some point in the future, there will be another version of an A380, but they'll be a bit more sustainable than what the one currently is now. Do we see that happening? Do we see sort of somebody picking up this business, this model of a A380 and going, we can make that a little bit greener, and then maybe trying it 20, 30 years down the line?
Probably not any bigger jumbo jets like the A380. I think probably the world's probably going to stick with what is currently suitable, like the 777, the A350, and especially since we're getting a lot of the newer versions, like we're getting more A350-1000s, we're getting A350 freighters, we're getting the new 777X. But all these jumbo jets like the 747 and A380, and in fact, in the future, I think it's next year in 2022, Atlas Air is supposed to be the carrier that receives the very last 747 in production. I think it's in the second half. I can't remember which month exactly.
It is due to be soon. So that's another one that, I'll say we've got to look forward to, but it's going to be one that's going to also be a little bit sad. I think a lot worse, I think, in terms of the A380, because obviously the 747 has been around for,
it's been around for about 52 years now.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a long, it's a long sort of. I think when Airbus designed the 380, that's kind of what they wanted. They wanted to kind of make this plane that lasted 50 odd years by various different designs. Of course, there was different, there was different variants of the A380 that they wanted to explore. They wanted to go, they wanted to stretch it to like a 1000 version to seat more passengers and have a little bit more capacity. They wanted to make a freighter of it, which I think, as we discussed, I think at the time, if you could make that happen, would be amazing. But the plane was just too big.
It was big enough. I don't know why they need to make a bigger variant.
the Airbus like to stretch everything. You can see the 340 and 350s and 330s and everything else. But there was a lot of hope, a lot of because this design for the 380 came out even before the first one took flight, like back at I think it was a Farnborough Air Show back in the 90s. So that's how long this design has been out, because it came out as the A3XX. They didn't have a designation for it, and they've been toying with the idea of doing it and thought, right, we'll compete with if the 747s are starting to go out, we'll bring our own one in, and it sort of it worked for a little bit. And then it obviously everything sort of went upside down in terms of operational costs and everything, and it then just became one of those planes that airlines didn't want to use.
No.
No, only certain airlines like the
Right.
international airlines like Emirates, Singapore, Qantas, Qantas still have them. I don't know why I was thinking that they didn't. I'm thinking of the 747, but in fact, I think Qantas are looking at bringing back their A380s on routes such as Heathrow.
Yeah,
But
obviously I've got a real.
Who knows what's going to happen? Unless something's already happened and I just haven't heard about it.
Yeah, obviously I've got a real affection for the 380, so I'm quite disappointed that it's sort of end as nigh, that's for sure.
Well, even though the production stops, they're still going to be flying for a long time. So, I mean, as long as you get the opportunity to fly on at least one, then I think it's definitely going to be stuck with you even more.
I think. Sorry, go on, Tom.
No. Go on.
I'm saying I think that the airline industry in the future have learned and will learn a lot more about the A380 and the actual concepts of the actual plane itself, where it doesn't need reversers for a start because it's got enough braking power in its wheels to stop the plane, hasn't it? And things like that. And I think just little things like that will help make engines bigger, and I think it'll make them greener. And I think when that time comes, and perhaps Rob Brown was saying there, they should have re-engined it with sort of a Neo style engine. So they could have re-engined it. I mean, if the 380 can stop just by using its speed brakes and by using its foot brakes, it doesn't need reverse thrusters. Maybe even reverse thrusters are a thing of the past. Maybe they're not needed as much as what they used to be. But I think the airline industry can learn a lot from what Airbus have done in just creating an aircraft like the 380. I'm just saying, as its braking and its stopping power and the actual thrust of the engines, if they could develop that, maybe then they could come out with maybe a composite version of a 380 where it's going to be a lot lighter.
Yeah.
And you can put a Neo style engine in it or something, and maybe in years to come, maybe next 20 years, there might be another market for a 380, and not necessarily a 380 what has to do long haul flights. Maybe a 380 what could take the place of 3 737s or 3 A320s and fly 300 people down to Salou instead of sending 3 Airbuses down there. So maybe they could learn something from it, and maybe they could, take that going forward, sort of thing. I don't know.
I think, like, I agree with what you said. I think they'll learn a lot, and obviously they've tried to kind of do something with the 380 to make it a bit more desirable to airlines. I don't know if you remember the proposition of making the A380 Plus with the fuel efficient winglet.
Yeah, Rob's just mentioned it. Yeah.
So,
I beg your pardon. Bradley Penny's mentioned it there.
Yeah, there you go. So Bradley Penny atting Rob Brown Planespot and saying they created the A380 Plus. However, the aircraft received no orders as an aircraft is not viable, which, at that point, it was like a sinking ship and trying to find ways to keep it afloat, and it just wasn't working. So, but credit to Emirates, because obviously they were the ones that have kept the 380 program going for this long. Considering
Emirates and Etihad really kind of pushed the boat out on first class and business, and it being proper kind of luxury, don't they?
Yeah.
That's sort of a real selling point of it in their eyes.
Especially Emirates.
Yeah.
Because in first class, you basically get your own bedroom.
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
needed to do that to make it profitable, didn't they?
Hmm.
Otherwise, it never would have been a profitable route, would it?
Yeah.
But even their economy plus is out of this world on
Oh,
the
yeah.
on the Emirates.
Yeah, and Bradley Penny saying there that Emirates are planning to keep their older A380s for at least another decade. So
Yeah,
definitely, plenty of life left in,
the old bird.
especially for Emirates, because Emirates will, they don't do short haul, so they're going to need to use the 380, and it obviously works for them on certain, certain routes and stuff. And I don't think at this point they're not really bothered about operational costs because they are one of the richest airlines in the world. So
Yeah, true.
I think that's why they'll keep them around for a long time. Obviously, they've got 123, and no other airline touches them when it comes to.
They're probably
how many?
the richest airline in the world, to be honest.
Yeah, if not the richest. But they piss fuel out like it was just everyday sort of thing. But but it's still a sad occasion for the fact that the 380 now will never go into production again. At least for me, it's kind of not as sentimental as for me, like when the 757 went out in 2004, it finished, I believe. So,
Wow, that long ago?
Yeah.
I didn't know the 757 stopped production so long ago, just 1 year before I was born.
Yeah, 2004. The last airline that got one was Shanghai Airlines.
You make me feel old saying that,
No, I know. How do you think Sam feels when we talk about Laker in the 80s?
Yeah.
Even I wasn't born then, but
I feel a bit. Don't know if I should feel too young or if I was born
Ian
at
will
the
tell
wrong
you all
time.
about Laker. He was around.
No, I was definitely not born at the wrong
Remember
time.
Ian will tell you all about. If you hang around, Ian will tell you about the Wright brothers if you're really lucky.
Oh, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Looking for quit button.
We get
want
it.
to
It's
get
not as
insulted.
festive, Tom.
No, I know. I tried to be as festive, and I tried to get everybody to be as festive, but Steve's going on timeout for that comment. But no, he's coming back. But we'll go on to the second one, which is one that I think Ian has taken a lot of interest in over the last, since its initial breakout, a couple months back, and obviously an update on it is that some legal proceedings have been made against Airbus by Qatar for the damaging groundings of the A350s due to the paint issue that is ongoing. Just, Ian, refresh everyone's mind as to what the issue was here.
Well, the A350 fleet of Qatar have been suffering from paint degradation, they're calling it, aren't they? And it's affecting the lightning conductivity, I think, of the actual composite fuselage and the wing structures and things like that. And Qatar aren't happy with it at all either. Now, Qatar wanted Airbus to come up with a solution. I think Airbus have said in a roundabout way that they have come up with a solution, but Qatar aren't happy. So Qatar have issued proceedings, haven't they, at a county court or something in London to try and resolve the issue. But people are saying now, what is it exactly what Qatar are after? What are Qatar looking for? And why is it only affecting Qatar? Why? What's the issue with Qatar and Airbus? It probably roots a lot deeper than what the press are letting us know. I don't know.
It's a strange one that it's only happening to Qatar. I've not seen any other airline that's had this issue.
No.
Yeah, so is it even Airbus's fault? In fact, I can't fully remember what even happened. In fact, I think the first time I heard about it was probably a month or two ago. I can't remember how long ago it was, but if it's only happening to Qatar Airways, are we sure it's Airbus, or is it something that Qatar Airways are doing?
Could be the high temperatures in the deserts and stuff, I guess.
Yeah,
especially
like anybody
Qatar
else,
being a hot.
Yeah, because
country.
Because Qatar Airways is based in Doha, which of course is going to be a hot place.
Didn't the 350 come into Manchester or Heathrow last week though, Qatar? Or was I dreaming that? I'm sure I saw that.
No, they are still flying some, aren't they? No, they're only taking them out of service when they're going in for service. So when they take them in for service and they inspect them, if they're finding the problem, then they're actually taking them out of service at that point, rather than grounding the entire fleet and taking the entire fleet out. So they've
Yeah,
only
it's
been
as
doing
and
it
when they find it, isn't it?
as
It's
a-
as and when
yeah,
they find the
yeah.
issue.
Yeah, but it might be, it could be anything from just a bad batch of paint, or it could be that particular the process, what the actual painters, is it a third party painter who are painting the planes? I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't think it's Airbus who are painting the planes. I think somebody else is doing it. So maybe it could be the way that they're painting the plane. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I was an ex-painter, and if the job's not done right, then it's not going to be right. So maybe they've been cutting corners, or it remains to be seen. But
Painting bedroom walls is a little different to painting aircraft wings.
no, I used to be a car painter, didn't I, back in the day. So
Oh, car painter,
yeah, I
sorry.
used to be a car painter, yeah, and body repairs and stuff. So
Airfix or Revell?
lol. However, I've restored 2 E-Type Jaguars in my time.
Oh well, that's me told.
Scolded.
That's it. Oh, burning up in here. No, but on Monday, 20th of December, Qatar Airways announced they had issued legal proceedings against Airbus in the Technology and Construction Division of the High Court in London. The airline said that it was the action of a result of a failure to reach a constructive solution in relation to its accelerated surface degradation condition on the Airbus A350 fleet. A quote coming from them said that we have sadly failed in all of our attempts to reach a constructive solution with Airbus in relation to the accelerated surface degradation condition adversely impacting the A350 aircraft. Qatar Airways has therefore been left with no alternative but to seek a rapid resolution of this dispute via the courts.
Do you think
The
that
interesting
affects the muscle
yes.
to try and speed them up a little bit, get it sorted, rather than actually wanting to take them through a proceeding?
Yeah, and going into the legal system of it, the ongoing surface degradation issue continues, with the latest move coming from Qatar Airways. This comes just 11 days after Airbus said that it was seeking an independent legal assessment due to an unnamed customer attempting to misrepresent this specific topic as an airworthiness issue, while Airbus legal assessment announcement never explicitly named Qatar Airways. It's reasonably clear that the Middle Eastern airline is the carrier at the center of this situation.
Yeah, and as we were sort of mentioning in terms of other airlines and why it hasn't happened to the likes of any other airline, well, it turns out there a lot of other airlines have kept very quiet about it, but they've been basically outed as extra complaints in regards to the paint issue. They reckon that some airlines have been raising concerns about the issue. The likes of Finnair, Cathay Pacific, Etihad, Lufthansa, and Air France have all raised concerns. But according to an investigation that was made, Finnair, Cathay Pacific, and Lufthansa have all cited some cosmetic damages on their A350s. So it's going to be one of those ones to definitely keep an eye out on, and just to see what comes from this, I think, because this could either damage the 350's reputation big time, or it's just one of those issues that will just get fixed and just swept under the carpet and nothing else is said about it. So be interesting to see what happens, I think.
I think that's what Airbus are trying to do, aren't they? I mean, if all these different airlines are coming up with similar kinds of problems with it now, then it's obviously a problem what Airbus have got, isn't it? But they don't want to do a 737 MAX on it, do they, and ground everything, and then it'll cost the company billions to rectify, won't it, like it has done with Boeing. And I don't think they want to go that, especially now with the A350 freighter just being announced as well, and the orders they're getting in for that could seriously damage that as well, couldn't it?
Hours it's taken to check every single A350 in the whole world, all off the back of this. It's some own goal for Airbus, isn't it?
Absolutely,
as a company.
Yeah,
it is.
I was going to say, it's like everything, though. I mean, you can buy a brand new car and 6 months, it might be absolutely fine. And then 18 months down the road, you might start having problems with it. And then we've seen it where every single car in the fleet gets recalled back into Citroen or Volkswagen, whatever, for a modification. And I don't think an aircraft's going to be any different. 12 to 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. They could call it back in for a modification or something because it needs it, because it's not right. And, and it's only these problems they find down the road, isn't it? So it could be something like that.
And even though it's only 21 A350s grounded, it's still going to cost a lot of money. I mean, compared to Qatar Airways' entire fleet, 21's probably not that much. And, it's probably not going to cost... Well, I mean, it'll cost a lot, but, I mean, it probably won't affect Qatar Airways as much as people think. Because, I mean, if you think how Qatar Airways are, they're such a big international operator, one of the biggest in the Middle East. And in fact, going into this situation, they actually go on to say, we strongly believe that Airbus must undertake wow, my reading's terrible. My reading is like so bad. How in the
We'll
world
talk
did
amongst
I
ourselves.
pass my
What do you
IT?
think? Yeah.
I think if you click the right button, you can get a Scottish translation.
Oh, you.
That's not right.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's not even Scottish. Wait, yeah, you're right. No, I'm right. It's not Scottish. It's not because it's in English. So shut up.
I'll jump in and we'll go with a couple of comments there from Rob Brown, Plain Spot, and it says that the hot, humid weather in the Middle East was mentioned as a cause, which I think is about right. I guess Ian, as a
It can
former
cause
painter.
literally anything. I mean, it can.
hot and
Heat
humid
can
weather
damage the
affect it.
aircraft.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it can affect paint really, really bad. Yeah, if it's
Yes.
not prepared right. And the thing is, I don't think Airbus want to admit to an underlying problem with their aircraft, because as soon as they bow down to Qatar, everybody else is just going to say, well, this is what's wrong with our planes, and it's just going to absolutely decimate Airbus, really, isn't it?
Mm. Well, they should just look into it further and see if it is their fault or not. Because I mean, they shouldn't be afraid to admit fault. Because after they do, ground them, fix them, return them to service. That might cost them money, but costing money is better than costing lives.
Well, the thing you say about the Qatar, and it's not really damaging them. We're having to fly around naked, free, meant to have been scrapped, sort of last summer, if not beforehand, to cover it at the moment. So,
aren't they?
yeah. So we've had to reshuffle the pack and fly aircraft that they plan to use again, haven't they? So yeah, a degree of inconvenience about it is, apart from not being able to fly their sort of top of the range 350s around the place.
It's a slight sort of inconvenience for them. I mean, it's not like the aircraft went out of service and then had to come back. It's they were preparing them for it, and then all of a sudden this issue came in, and the 330 is pretty much a perfect aircraft for them.
Even though we're having fun with the whole news thing, have we got no Q&A questions?
Not at the moment.
You want to throw some in then?
Yeah.
What you wanted to ask?
Yeah, chuck them in. You can say some. It's not a problem. You can ask anything you like.
Me or the viewers?
Yeah, I know.
I want to know what conditioner you use on your hair.
What?
I want to know what conditioner you use on your hair.
Yeah, great Q&A question. I don't.
I use wash and gone.
Very quick.
What?
Yeah.
Wash and gone. Not wash and go.
Wash and gone.
Just wash it.
Yes, that's me.
No condition.
Yeah.
Nothing really.
Yeah. Steve's only asking that because he's jealous.
Yeah, I know. You can some of my grey hair if you want it.
Multiple advantages. I mean, here you save money and you get a bit of a free fidget toy.
Yeah, well.
Steve's got a fidget toy, but it's in his bedside cabinet.
Well, yeah.
Dear.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on quickly. Rob Brown Plain Spotting says that Boeing never really discovered the root cause of the 787 battery issue, and yet they still roll out the door, whereas Airbus will find a fix. I think that's quite right to say on that one. So how long do we think until this gets sort of resolved, Ian? Do you reckon it'll be sort of within the next couple of months, or do you think this is going to drag out for a long time?
It's going to rumble on and rumble on. I mean, they've took it to an English court, haven't they? There you go. That's just going to drag on and on and on.
I think it all just depends on what happens with all the court cases, and well, there's other stuff to focus on as well other than this situation. So because of all the other stuff they've got to focus on, they're going to have to sort of put this to the side for a bit and then come back to it.
I think so.
Yeah,
even if it's a serious matter, you still sometimes have to put it to the side if you're an airline.
I think it's unfortunate that I mean we've all seen like TV shows like Air Crash Investigation and things like that, and it's only when a plane actually falls out at sky is when they start finding fixes for these things, and it takes something like that to create a solution for a problem. And if the problem's already there, like this 350 problem they've got now, if God forbid something did happen to one of these planes, I think they'd soon find a fix for it then, wouldn't they?
I think so.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
And I think sometimes it takes a disaster for people to get sort of a foot up their arse sort of thing and move it along. You know,
in fact, something like that actually happened 22 years ago. There was a fix for a system that could have, prevented a whole chain of events leading to a crash, but then it happens.
Yeah. Look, it was same with the. I think me and Steve watched the program on it. The which one were it? Steve? The British Airways plane what took off at East Midlands, were it?
The one that didn't make it back into East Midlands.
Yeah, and it hit the runway, didn't it?
It hit the motorway, yeah.
And there was a fix,
Flight
weren't there, for the vibration, weren't there, on their engine? There was a fix for that, weren't there? But they chose to ignore it, didn't they? And then
he ended up
the wrong engine down, didn't they?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Spoiler alert!
Down the wrong engine. Yeah, that was in 1989. Was it British Midlands Flight 92? I think that was.
Is that
I think I watched
the
the episode of Air Crash Investigation on that.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So
but
close
if
to
you
making
followed the
it as well.
procedure, but there had been a fix for the problem that would have stopped it happening, and they chose to ignore it. So it's
something similar happened 22 years ago today, actually, near Stansted. That involved a 747.
What was that then?
I don't know if you know the story, but it's I do know a bit about all these plane crashes because I tend to watch Air Crash Investigation when I'm at my mum's because I've got access to it. But 22 years ago today, in 1999, a Korean Airlines 747 was supposed to be flying to Milan in Italy, after flying from Seoul's Gimbo Airport to Tashkent and then on to Stansted. But because of a malfunctioning system known as the Inertial Navigation Unit, which helps send information to the ADIs, the information, the pitch information and roll information. And because it was short-circuiting, the ADI on the captain's side showed the plane as level when it was supposed to be turning. So the captain continued turning his yoke to the left, which led to it continuing to bank and go down and crash.
Yeah, it has its issues, doesn't it? I think the sad thing is that sometimes it does take the loss of life to give a kick up the backside to try and find something to try and fix. Excuse me. Try and fix what the initial issue is. But hopefully, they find a solution for this sort of quicker than we think. Question from Rob Brown Plain Sport. This is an interesting one, and I've got various opinions on this one. He's asking us, the Iceland Air, her new livery. What are our thoughts on it?
Good question, that actually.
Go on, Sam.
Well, when I first saw it, I actually did think a few people have said that it does not look good, and they've used strong language about it, and I thought at first it didn't look that bad to me. I mean, it's not the worst. However, when I look at it, I do actually think of Ryanair.
Okay.
It does make Icelandair look like a low-cost carrier, but I do think their current livery is better than the new one, because, I mean, the new one just makes Icelandair, like I already said, it makes them look like a low-cost carrier.
Yeah, I mean, they've got. They've gone down the basic kind of route of the navy blue, kind of the keeping within their colours, but then I don't understand the different colour stripes on the tail.
Have you got a picture of it, Tom? If you don't mind me asking, can you throw a picture onto the screen?
Certainly can. Talk
Thank
amongst
you.
yourselves whilst I find it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. I saw they've got a new special livery, haven't they? I'm not sure of its name. The one with has it got a mountain range or something down the side of it or something? Or is that something I've just noticed?
Probably something you've just
It
noticed.
probably sounds
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it. Right,
Just
as you were,
you,
chaps.
As you
I don't
were.
really. I didn't even know that they had a new special livery.
No, I
I mean,
thought they had
Icelandair, I
one.
don't really keep up with, to be honest, because
They have some lovely looking planes.
Yeah, I don't see Icelandair unless I go down to Manchester Airport.
we should
I
have
think it
kept with
actually came
the.
into Manchester the other day. This particular livery.
We should have kept with the blue, white, red one.
Was that the retro-looking one?
Yeah, that was the iconic one for me. They should have gone back to that, but sign
It's a sign of the times, definitely. Yeah. I actually like the livery they've got now. I think it looks fantastic. I like it on the 7.5s. It looks really nice, I find.
Yeah, it's not
They
the
look
new
proper
one's not
sleek.
terrible, but again, they've done what American Airlines have done. They've got shot of something that was better. Well, it hasn't improved it for me compared to what we did have, but
Yeah, I think pretty much everyone agrees. You'd have to be a very hard fan of low-cost carriers.
Yeah. Let's have a look. I'm a good critic when it comes to liveries. I've got a good track record.
I am trying to find a picture, but my internet.
I'll tell you what. I'll Google it. Hang on.
Hold on.
Hang
on, I think
Your internet's not the worst in the world.
I've got it.
All right, chill out.
I've got it.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah.
What's been said?
Can't be any worse than what Steve's, having to experience after mocking the Cornish.
I was just going to ask you about putting this picture on screen, Tom. I thought it was going to be
Never mock the Cornish.
Dial-up internet, so it takes all night to upload.
Honestly, I've been done
I'm
with
going to have to do
the
it like
Pixies.
this. I'll have to do it like this. I've got it. Okay, right, here we go.
Yeah, I don't think the different colors of the tails look good, especially the yellow. I mean, the blue and I suppose the purple, all right, but the blue, not blue, yellow and what is that? Turquoise or something? It just doesn't look nice on this Icelandair livery. In fact, is this even real or is this just a rumor?
This is confirmed. This is happening next month.
Oh, Icelandair, what were you thinking?
I'll tell you what Icelandair were thinking, should I? Number one, they were thinking Ryanair, with the second one with the yellow flash on the tail.
Yeah.
And the first one, they were thinking Aldi. Now, not the English version of Aldi, but if you look at the European version of Aldi, the German and the French version of Aldi, that is pretty much there. So, yeah, I'm not a fan. I like the different colours on the tails, but I don't like the Aldi one. I'm not a fan of the Ryanair one either. So
they've always had a splash of yellow in there, haven't they? To be honest, like in recent times.
I can understand the yellow. The yellow on the second one is fine, and if you put the actual tail logo as a yellow, I can deal with that. This is just, it's just, why?
Yeah, it's definitely Ryanair, isn't it?
Yeah, it's another Euro white
just
plane.
Just because of the style of it and the way it's laid out.
Yeah, it's just there's nothing about it that just screams anything to do with it's not synonymous with Iceland. But then here's a question then for you, in terms of the special liveries that you got. with Icelandair. What do you think is going to happen to them now that
They're going to get a bunch of hate.
Do you think it's going to be repainted and are we going to see the end of the Aurora Borealis livery and 90 years livery?
Well, if they get enough hate, yeah.
There's a stunning livery. Ian's seen it recently, haven't you, Ian?
Yeah, you have. Yeah, I've got a photograph of that. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, it's proper iconic. It's well, I think it's going to be one of the best out there, hasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think so. We'll jump into sort of the next news topic that we've got. We're going to miss out one, but we'll give it a brief mention because we have spoken about it a lot, which was yesterday marked the 33rd anniversary of the Antonov 225's livery. Is that the Audi thing?
That's the Audi livery I was talking about.
Lovely. That does remind me of Audi.
Yeah, there you go.
I see
what
you
part
mean.
of that makes you think of Aldi?
That is the Audi livery abroad. In some European countries, they have. I'm not going to go into the history of Audi, but Audi was when it was founded, it was separated and it was owned by two brothers. Now, one brother decided to dominate the English market, which he has done, and that's why we see the logos what we do now. But the other brother dominated the European markets, and he chose a different Audi logo. That's the logo he chose.
Right.
And that's why they have different logos. Yeah.
Here's what I say to that.
No.
So, anyway, let's go on to so it's the Antonov 225, 33 years since its since its first flight. We've spoken in a lot of detail over the last couple of weeks about the Antonov 225, so we're not going to go too much into it. But it's been around for 33 years.
Well, happy birthday.
Well done, Steve.
A day late.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's jump
it's
on.
Great day, but also a sad day at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move away from the 225 and we'll go into sort of the last couple stories that we have. So the first one that I want to mention is the news that came out this week that Air France and KLM have ordered Airbus aircraft to renew their fleet. And this comes as a bit of a shock, especially for KLM, who have ordered the A320neo family to potentially replace their 737 aircraft and some of their older planes as well. Now, an interesting sort of thing, I didn't see them going down this route in terms of going there, but it looks as if in the future, whereas we're used to seeing 737s and everything from KLM on the sort of domestic, like Manchester, Glasgow, Heathrow, etc. We're going to soon be seeing A320s and A321s. It's going to be a bit of an interesting change, isn't it?
In fact, I think they're also looking at they seem to be interested in ordering the A350 freighter.
Yeah, I know Air France Cargo have done. I know they have 100% ordered it. That's coming in 2028, I believe. So it's another airline that's jumped onto the 350 freighter wagon, which is always good to see. And the fact that, I mean, it is not the first airline this week to switch allegiances, shall we say, but it's going to be very interesting to see from what we know, which is, we've seen KLM throughout the years operate strictly Boeing, like, 737 family, 300s, 400s, and then the 700s and 800s and 900s. And they haven't gone for the MAX, they've gone for the 321s. So Airbus must be sitting there, rubbing their hands together, going, this is fantastic.
Do you reckon that this changeover, when KLM were big in 747s flying transatlantic and what have you, they probably struck a deal with Boeing, didn't they, back to be flying ticket. And now the market's open, they can switch to Airbus and probably get some kind of European Union pat on the back for doing it. And obviously Air France are never going to fly anything other than Airbus because it's built in their back garden. But just with KLM, maybe that's what's happened. Maybe now aviation's moved on, and from sort of those days of flying transatlantic with Boeing, they're now afforded the opportunity to switch to Airbus. And if something goes wrong or production, it's like a 30-minute flight away rather than sort of having to fly around the world and what have you. It's an operation.
I don't think it's got anything to do with the distance in delivery. And I think it's more to do with the fact that maybe just at this moment, the 320 family Neo versions are just a lot more desirable at this point than the 737 MAX. With all the issues that the MAX has had, I don't think KLM will want 737 MAXs in their fleet to potentially then ground them. The 321 Neo, as we know, has not had I don't think it's had any issues whatsoever. Or like 320 Neo have had no issues whatsoever in terms of operations and things like that. And airlines love them. So it's a bit of a shock because this is obviously going to not just affect KLM. It's going to go into obviously like Air France. They're going to have the Neos as well, and then it's also going to affect Transavia as well, which are also part of that group. So Transavia themselves have got 737s. It's the same with KLM, and because they're part of the same group, they're now going out to go, well, actually, we're going to change our minds and go for the 321s or 320s, which is going to be fascinating. So for me, at least, reading this was a massive shock because it means it's almost like for me, because KLM are one of the airlines that have been around pretty much forever, like one of the oldest airlines that are still going. This looks to me like a changing of the guard. So whereas Boeing were a huge player, now it's like handing it over to Airbus, going, "We think you're kind of taking over now."
Well,
Well, who can really blame them? Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say that KLM are owned by Air France anyway, aren't they?
It's a group. Yes, there's a group. It's not particularly owned by. It's more of like a group sort of thing.
I just don't think KLM were in the decision making. I just think it's an Airbus. I keep calling it Airbus. I think it was just an Air France decision, just to put Airbus into that entire. Like Steve's saying, it's on the doorstep. They'd be silly giving an American company billions and billions when they could give it to a French company instead. I mean, why wouldn't
But then they could have done that years ago when they ordered the 737-800s and gone, well, actually, we'll get the 320s.
They could have done, couldn't they? But there's been a lot of things like, especially under Donald Trump as well, with political issues about taxis between Europe and America and things like that. And that may have played a massive part. I mean, imagine ordering 100 737 Maxes and God knows how much money it would cost, but imagine the tax bill on top of that as well. What you'd have to pay. You're buying from one member of the European Union and supplying another member of the European Union and probably doing away with all them taxes. Plus, like Steve was saying, there's grants and things like that through European Union. So it'd be a silly decision, I thought, to replace an entire fleet with Boeing. You know, speaking from a European point of view.
Talking of Boeing, I think what some carriers are probably doing is that they're probably trying, because Airbus are a bit more technological, they're probably trying to move on a bit into the next generation because, Boeing is much older. But then again, they're still building much newer aircraft, like, the A350, not A350 freighter. I mean, the 777X, and they've got the 747-8 and lots of new aircraft, and the 737 MAX.
Well, they're not really new aircraft, are they? They're just old aircraft, modernised. They haven't got an A350 and they haven't got an A380, have they? And I think Airbus have always been that little bit more technologically advanced than what Boeing have been with fly-by-wire aircraft and using side sticks and things like that and glass.
That comment from Rob Brown pretty much is nailed on. So he says Boeing missed the boat.
I can't see it.
He says Boeing missed the boat with no middle market option. Airbus bang on with the A320 family. And it is, because for a long time now, even if it's not the Neo, the A321 has always been seen as that option that could be used to replace the likes of the 757. British Airways did the exact same, when British Airways retired their 757s in 2010, the go-to aircraft that they used for the routes that the 757 served was the A321. So it was only a matter of time that the A321 was going to then fill that void of of the gap that was left when the 757 stopped production. A lot of airlines were then getting rid of it. So the A321 is like the perfect plane for a lot of airlines. For example, Scandinavian today flew Copenhagen to New York, I think, or maybe Boston. It's one of the two with the A321. So it's filling that gap of you don't need such a big plane, but at the same time, like JetBlue and Air Transat and some French airlines as well. I'm not going to pronounce them because I'll butcher it, but they use 21 as a as a plane that what the 757 was, which was it was almost too much plane for a lot of the airports, whereas the A321 is pretty much like bang on when it comes to capacity. You don't need a lot if you're not going to house a lot of passengers inside them, and then operating costs as well, and it's also efficient. So
yeah, I think there's also the pilot side of it as well, where the pilots don't need retraining as well, aren't there?
There's that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, we've had two pilots now, haven't we? Who've said that you can fly anything from an 18 all the way up to a 380 on the same principle.
Yeah,
Laura Savino nailed it on the head when she was on. She said you just go straight from an A319 to an A320 to an A321 to an A330 to an A340, and not much will change.
Yeah.
I just saw a notification on my screen, and it caught my interest that I should probably share. So I don't know if it was recently announced, but I think it's at the new year is when Lufthansa are going to be retiring their 747s, 400s, and A340s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's fresh news or if my friend just figured that out just now and sent it.
It's slightly fresh because they've had to, they've retired the 747s, 400s, and then they brought them back in to, help with the pandemic side of things. I think now it's a case of we can kind of get rid of them because
they're retiring them because they're older, but they're still keeping their Dash 8s and their Dash 8 Intercontinental.
Yeah, they'll be around for a while yet. But
which makes me happy because I like the Dash 8 variant better than the Dash 400, to be honest.
Oh, controversial. But everyone's
Although
got.
I do love the Dash 400, which I have flown on before.
Yeah, so
I've still not seen a Dash 800 yet.
Yeah, it's really like interesting to kind of. What this will do is it'll be like a statement of intent from Air France and KLM, and it will cause, I think, more airlines to maybe rethink what their next strategy is going to be, because they'll want to be able to compete with the likes of KLM and Air France and things like that. So if you're going to compete with them, do you go for a MAX aircraft, or do you just go, right, well, if you've got the Neo, we'll go for the Neo as well, and
probably go for the Neo because you know what happened with the 737 MAX.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be more happy if I knew that a Neo was at the gate than a MAX was.
Definitely, I agree.
I think, and not just because of the issues that it's had. I'd be more happy to know that a 320 or 321 Neo was at the gate waiting to take me to somewhere than I would be if a 737 MAX was going to take me somewhere. I think I'd be more happy with the Neo. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what this does now, because, like I say, this is not just a one-off. As we get onto our last news bit in a second, but it's not a one-off for a major airline to kind of change their commitments. And I think this will probably cause a snowball effect. And I don't see it going the opposite way, where people, airlines are going to get rid of Airbus aircraft to go for the Boeing. So I think this is, as I say, like the changing of the guard, I think. And the Airbus have now got that middle of the market niche that they are fulfilling with the likes of the 321 Neo, the long range version, and then soon to come, which is the extra long range version, which fills fills it perfectly. So I think next year is going to be an interesting year for aviation in terms of what airlines order. 100%.
Yeah, no, that's it. Boeing have obviously got some catching up to do, and the 737 MAX has been nothing short of a disaster so far at this point, is it, for the company image?
Well, that's it.
Yeah,
and Rob Ryan Plain Point there says a lot of American airlines waiting on Boeing's middle market but hasn't happened so far. There was talk of the 7797, which got announced in 2019, and then it was pulled in 2019 because they felt it wasn't needed, which is daft on their part, and that's why a lot of the American airlines, such as American themselves, United and Delta, have all opted to go for the Airbus aircraft. United have ordered the 321 Neo as well to help them with their future fleet overhaul. So I think a changing of the guard is happening, and I think we're seeing it before our very eyes.
Yeah, no, undoubtedly, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So lastly, when we get onto this one, as we said, it's not just the first sort of major airline to announce this, and I think this is a little bit more interesting actually, is that Qantas have also pledged their future to Airbus, which means it's an end of an era for their Boeing aircraft. They've obviously operated a lot of Boeing planes, such as 737s, 747s, and obviously over the years they've had the A330s and the A330s and of course the A380s. Now they're slowly introducing the A320s to their Qantas Link fleet.
Yeah, as they've got 20 A321 XLRs as well as 20 A320-300 jets, which are supposed to be replacing their 737s and their 717s.
So the 737s are going to be slowly
Pratt and Whitney engines.
Yeah, so the 737s are slowly going to get thrown out of the fleet, and again, it's another big airline, an airline that's got a lot of history to it, opting to go for Airbus as opposed to as opposed to Boeing.
And because it's a big airline, you're probably going to see a lot more smaller carriers, like low-cost carriers. They'll probably learn from the big ones, and in fact, because they're low cost, they're going to look into it probably a bit more or just as much because, as they're low-cost carriers, they're going to want to save more money, so they'll want to switch to more fuel efficient, like switching from the 737-800 to the 737 MAX 8, or from the A320 CEO to the A320 Neo.
The only thing Qantas has got going for it on the Boeing front is obviously that super long Australia to Heathrow non-stop flight, of course. So they're always going to be a Boeing customer for the Dreamliners. Yeah, they won't ditch that because it saves you stopping off at Singapore, Dubai, wherever it is, and you can do it in one hit. I know getting from Sydney to Darwin or wherever it is isn't exactly a 10-minute commute, but still to do it straight from the land.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing. Go on.
So I was just going to say, do carriers like, Virgin Australia are quite a big carrier down there, aren't they? They have a three. They have an Airbus fleet, I think, don't they?
A mix of Airbus and.
Is it mixed?
It's Airbus long haul, Boeing short, I believe, but they're also in administration at this point, and I don't think they've come back yet.
Oh, all right. I wasn't aware of that. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right.
They were in financial difficulty to begin with, so they had to park their planes up. That's why, like down here in Exeter, we see their sort of ATRs that have come down all the way from Australia to go back to their lesser and stuff because they just haven't been brought back into service yet.
Okay, right.
I don't think Virgin Australia have done yet.
Right.
It's an interesting move in terms of what Steve was saying in terms of the 787 going direct and that's all part of the Project Sunrise project that they've got going on. And whilst the 787 fits it, I think what they've done, and I think this is what's kicked it off for Qantas, is that they've actually picked the A350 to do the job. So once the 350s come in, they will then do the direct flights. I think that the 787 works for them on that run, but I think the 350 is going to be a little bit more efficient and maybe possibly a little bit quicker on the actual run itself. So I think that's kind of what they will probably, they'll go with that. And I can't think when deliveries will start, or whether it's confirmed or whether it's official. But I'm fairly certain that they've put an intent to get the 350s purely for Australia to London, and I think it's Sydney to New York. I think direct as well, because they stop off at the moment in like San Francisco or something, or Los Angeles, and then go off to New York and other places like that. So I think that's kind of what they're going to be doing in the future.
But it's huge, isn't it? It's obviously like aviation's come on such a long way. Even 10, 15 years ago, if you said you could fly direct to Australia, you would have raised an eyebrow, definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah, yeah, no, you can. So it's definitely interesting, and definitely it's something to keep an eye on in terms of the deliveries are going to be starting in 2023. So you've not really got long to wait to see an Airbus A321neo or an A220 in Qantas livery, which I think would be really, really nice. Whether they'll do something special with it, I don't know. Whether we'll see it like over here in the UK is probably a no, because it's a bit far of a stretch.
And it's the A320s and A220s, so we'll definitely not, unless you go over to Australia, but that's going to be pricey.
Oh, they do something wacky with it, maybe, or something.
Unless you win the lottery or something.
Yeah, it's going to be slightly interesting to see what happens with that, and whether they, there's 75 737-800s that need replacing. So whether they'll make more orders, or whether they think that 40 is going to be enough to kind of fill the void that will be left, it sort of remains to be seen, I guess. So it's one of those. I think they'll test them first in terms of having that amount of planes, and then see how they run. And if they're happy, they'll probably then order more to get rid of the remaining 737s and 717s.
Yeah, no, it's exciting times for Airbus, as we sort of touched on before this story. Like their growth, if you've got shares in Airbus at the moment, you must be laughing.
They've had a fantastic couple of weeks, a really good couple of weeks, with orders for the freighter 350, and obviously, like I say, lots of these airlines that are going from Boeing to them. It's next year is going to be it's going to be exciting to see what happens. I think absolutely 100%. That is that for this evening. I understand that because it's like nearly Christmas and everything, everyone's got things to be doing, so I can understand that. Hence the sort of the lack of questions. But you know what? It's another episode. It's absolutely fine. We've also reached the big 4-0 right before the end of 2021, so we're quite happy with that. And that's all just this year. So
Steve McLaren was asking what your favourite plane was, so I thought I'd just slip that in. I think
Steve
that's one of your friends, isn't it?
Anyone know who Steve McLaren is? I think anyone got a friend?
No, worst
the name
England
does
manager
ring a
ever.
bell. However, I don't know if that is the right person or not. I mean, I'd be surprised if it is, because I mean, unless he found me on social media and saw that I was posting that I was going to be on. I'd rather not say who I think it might be, though, unless it's someone else, or I mean, if it's the same person, I don't want to point it out in case it's awkward.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So we'll go around the room then and go favourite aircraft. Ian.
You've put me on spot now.
That's what we do here.
I'd still say, I don't know. I'll go for an A350. But for a plane what's flying at the moment.
Good shout. Steve.
Yeah.
Hey, well, first up, worst England manager we've had for the last 50 years, but appreciate you coming on to ask us a question. I would say the A380, just because I've flown it recently. And good luck in your next position. I'd imagine it'd be like Bolton or Norwich, somewhere like that.
Goodness me. If it is the Steve McLaren, then,
Yeah, apologies.
I hope you get a new brolly for Christmas.
Yeah, Wally with a brolly.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Sam, what's your favourite?
The 747.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
and mine is the 757, so I shall take that from there. Right, yes, let's wrap up episode number 40. Big thank you to everybody that's been watching. We're going to do a couple of shout outs. So if anybody has any shout outs in the comments, do put them into the chat. We'll get them shown on screen as we do ours. But as we always do, we'll start with
You got any
guests
shout outs?
to do some shout outs.
Put me in chat. I need to put me in chat.
You actually have to tell her what to do.
Yeah.
But no, Sam, we'll go with you first for some shout outs.
Well, I guess shout out to you, Tom, for allowing me onto the podcast for, what is it, the 4th time or something, and the hosts of the show as well for being such a good sport. And I guess
That's you two, by the way.
I suppose
Ian
I guess
just like,
shout
yeah,
out
whatever.
to even though I don't think he's
yeah.
watching this, but I guess shout out to my dad as well for always being involved in my hobby and bringing me to the airports that I go to make my plane spotting videos at, as well as recently helping me with my new model airport, which will hopefully be featured on my channel starting from next year.
Lovely.
Have you ever tried fishing, Sam?
Ever tried what?
Fishing.
Fishing.
Yeah.
What question's that?
Fishing. Oh, well, when we were talking about his dad helping him with a hobby and supporting him with his hobby, I was asking him if he'd ever tried fishing.
No, I've never tried that, and I probably never will.
No. All right, fair enough. I was going to say it's a proper hobby.
Well, yeah, what has this become all of a sudden? A quick shout out to JRS Aviation, who says this is his new YouTube channel. Shout out, please. So, anybody watching, do go and give it a subscribe.
Go subscribe to my friend
Steve,
James there.
Oh yeah, well, first up, he's not here tonight. He's away working, but Marco Barrett's birthday recently, so happy birthday to him.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
Everyone
birthday.
in the chat, obviously Rob Brown, Plane Spotting's here every week, and we all appreciate your comments and your interaction and what have you. Tom, Ian, Sam, just great as ever, and wish everyone a happy Christmas. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And not really anyone else.
Brilliant, like that. Ian, over to you.
Yeah, just a massive shout out to yourself, Tom and Steve, and to Sam as well for joining us tonight. But it's always nice to have you on, Sam. Right, okay then. Shout out to Greg Wallace. My bottle of orange juice in the fridge. Tom's washing powder for washing that top, Tom, that you had on last week.
I did wash it, yes.
Yeah, and the lost Santa hat my dad never found, and I still don't know where it is now. I think it's under the Christmas tree, I think. So, yeah, big shout out to Santa's hat.
That's the best
Yeah, and a
shout
big shout out to that bottle of orange juice in the fridge.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Merry Christmas to you, Grey Blue, as well. Sorry, I've missed you out there. Have a good one.
That bottle of orange juice has been in there for about 3 weeks.
I'm just thinking of 2 oranges, but I had to sacrifice ourselves just to go into that bottle. Big shout out to Rob Brown, like Steve said. He's never missed one, I don't think, has he? And that's absolutely fantastic. And to everybody else as well who joins in the chat on a regular basis and who doesn't join in on a regular basis. If you're watching this on playback or whatever, then massive shout outs to you and a Merry Christmas to everybody who's listening and happy days. A massive shout out to any chutney manufacturers who are absolutely doing roaring business this time of the year. Yeah.
Wonder if Jer's tried the chutney channel yet.
I don't know. Yeah.
It may have hit the skids recently. There's not a lot of party going on.
Yeah, that's it. I wonder if you've plugged it enough yet.
So, I had a pick through the cheese selection today in Morrison's while I were in there, and I picked a few selections of cheeses for this weekend.
I'm
certain the shops are available.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not as good as Morrison's for cheese.
Disclaimer, like other shops are available.
Probably cheaper as well, Robin.
Well, this is more of a how the other half live, because JRS Aviation says, have a great Christmas. I have a bottle of champagne in the fridge.
Oh, very nice.
There's a toast to that.
Ooh la la, as they say. And then Rob Brown signing off with one word, chutney.
Well, that sums up the entire year for me.
I think we've definitely plugged the chutney channel enough as we can.
I think we've plugged it enough this week, definitely.
Yes. I'll do some shout outs, just a couple on this occasion. I'm going to give a shout out to Sam for coming back on what is, I believe it's your third appearance. I don't think you've been on more than that. I don't think you have, but we'll go third anyway. It might be, if it's more than that, it's more than that. Who cares? But big shout out to you for coming on this evening.
Yeah, very knowledgeable.
Yes. I'm going to put that on screen. A shout out to Ian for looking very festive this evening. Same with Steve.
I did try. I've got Santa's glasses.
It's not good enough.
Glasses then.
A shout out to Steve as well, who's currently showing his curtains. They look a little bit beefy, but there you go.
Yeah. No beef curtains in here recently.
That's all. every like the last few weeks now, we've just set Ian off for no reason whatsoever.
It's a simple things, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's not plugging the Chutney channel. It's Steve's curtains. But yes, anyway. So big shout out to you two for a wonderful job yet again. Everybody that's been watching this evening, and I think after next year we'll save all the next week I should say. Next week we'll save all the nice sort of compliments as we go into next week's show, which we'll go into shortly. But yeah, so big thank you to everybody watching, everyone that's contributed in the comments. Grey Blue for shouting out my washing powder. It does smell quite nice. And get that bottle of orange juice drunk as soon as you can, otherwise it will go off. And yeah, other than that, NHS workers and sort of health workers around the world for the continued job that you guys do, and frontline workers, etc., etc. Times are getting tough again, but we have to pull through as we always do, barring the odd few that don't want to. But yeah, I'm always thankful for the effort that the health workers always put in. So big shout out to you. In terms of next week, it is the last show before we enter 2022. So we figured, why not do an end of year special where we go through all 40 episodes of our podcast so far and find the funniest moments from them and share them with you in case you haven't seen them. And of course, we are joined once again by Ger Dooley, who I'm very tempted to play that clip from last week over again.
He's probably going to make his dramatic entrance again.
I honestly hope so. I'm going to find it. I'm going
Me
to put
too.
it on. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun next week. It's going to be one of those ones where we're going to sit and we're going to relax and we're going to, we're just going to.
A bit like this week.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much like this week. But I think just as a little special treat before Christmas, I think we've got to do it, haven't we?
Yeah.
For anybody that missed it last week,
I might next week as well. Have a few scoops.
We're going to give you a little treat from last week. And like I said, I have washed my jumpers.
I replayed that at least once, probably twice or something.
I've done it at least 15, 20 times. It is
Who
that
can blame you?
It is that funny. So as a little special Christmas treat from us to you guys, we're going to give Jer's introduction one last play and maybe do his reaction to the plane again. But this was when we introduced Jer back to the show. And we've been looking forward to this for a while. We've been sort of trying to work it for a little bit of time. And now he is here and ready. So without further ado, a very warm welcome to the man, the myth, the legend. It is Jer Dooley.
By the Lord Jesus, the night of that fucking plane be the
Oh my goodness,
I'm back! Woo!
Sorry, one more time. I've got it. So one more time. Do put your votes in. Tell us if you think it's a Christmas film or not. Me and Steve both think it's not, and it's a a very warm welcome to the man. Ian's reaction makes it perfect.
Yeah.
It is Jer Dooley.
By the Lord Jesus, the night out of that fucking plane be the Jesus!
You never get enough of that.
I'm back! I'm back! Woo!
There's the Christmas hat as well as got on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's class. That's class.
Oh,
So,
wow.
dear.
Classic. Yeah.
Oh dear.
so I'm hoping
Yeah.
next week he'll be able to do that because we're doing the end of the year special. That's totally making it, by the way. So that's definitely one not to miss out on. And I think just as a little extra, because I'm feeling a little bit generous.
Are we allowed to swear next week then, Tom?
I think so. I think we'll give it a good crack and
You know,
we'll,
Jer's going to do it anyway, so you might as
if
well.
Joe's going to do it, we'll do it ourselves.
May I just say then, thank fuck for that.
Oh,
Not now. No. Not now.
Oh, sorry everyone. It's gone 9. We're good.
No, not now. It's gone 9 now, but people will still be watching this tomorrow morning.
I'm sorry everybody.
Oh,
This ain't
God.
live till tomorrow morning, Tom, so...
Honestly, yeah, you can skip ahead or something. I don't know. But as a little closing thing, this will have swearing in it, but we're going to replay this again. This is going to be on the show again next week. But this was Jer and his first introduction to us of his plane spotting antics with the Spanish Air Force F-18 Hornet. There we go. Okay, so we all know what's coming, but you guys might not know what's coming. So this video here was particularly famous for Jer because it got him the sort of the fan base that he has, and it certainly introduced me to him. Certainly will. Particular video, and it made newspapers. Rob Brown Plane Spotting says the bleep machine will be in overdrive. And also, if you listen to the first episode that we done, which and that's also his reaction, it also to Jer's introduction. YouTube. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it don't do the same. But I shouldn't think it will. But we are putting a disclaimer out there that it will have swearing in. So as a nice little treat to kind of end this sort of wonderful show and a comeback for Jer, we're going to play the first video that got him the fan base that he has. It says 4 minutes, but we're not playing the full 4 minutes. It's just skip ahead because there's a Spanish Air Force F-18 Hornet to go out.
So what's the engine power again, did you say, Brent? To General Electric F404 afterburner.
I'm already giggling because I know what's
all
coming.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well now this goddamn Spanish fucking bastard. And I know I don't normally shout at fighter jets, but especially with this one.
We'll bring ourselves back in, but enjoy it anyway.
She's ready to power up now. There's her registration. There she goes. Wow. By the Lord, yes, tonight, Why the Lord gave the night on that fucking plane be the jail? There she goes now. Fuck out the Spanish Air Force fucking bastard, you know.
Oh, it's a classic.
The wheels and all are gone.
Oh, good
Why the
times.
Lord gave the night on that fucking plane? Oh, she was crackling in it right.
Oh my God!
Fucking hell, that was some night out that one.
Oh!
You goddamn fucking bastard, that's all yours, you head out. Oh, do you hear that, Brent? Beat the fucking hell the noise out of that.
Oh!
She's gone across Ballymun now. Yeah, well, fucking cross Ballymun and don't you dare come fucking back. Beat the fucking hell the night out of that one, Brent.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Oh, my
class.
Oh,
days.
good
Yeah,
old
love
Jer.
Oh, God. Joe will be with us next week, so there'll be more of that. And I think we're just going to
Aye.
throw the rule book out the window next week, and we are going to just go for a proper no-holds-barred kind of podcast next week.
Yeah, we'll
To
just
wrap
come
up
on
the
and
year
be
while we
all
go
like,
through some of our
by
favourite
the
bits.
Lord, or whatever.
By
what he said.
the Lord Jesus. I won't do the full thing because, we'll save that for next week. But, so Joe will be with us next week to go through our best bits of the year, which is going to be a lot of fun. There's been a lot of funny bits that we've had in the show, including that one and the other one before that. So we're going to get those in there as well. But all that's left for us to say is next Wednesday, 29th of December, 7:30 p.m. is when we are doing this. So do join us for that. In fact, let me bring that back up on the screen so at least you can see what we're doing. There we go. So all that's left for us to say is a big thank you to everyone who's been watching. Big thank you to everyone who's still watching. And we're going to say our goodbyes. So Sam, if you'd like to say goodbye to everybody.
Well, farewell, everyone. And thanks for having me on the podcast. It's been a blast, as it often usually is on this podcast.
Thank you. Steve.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. And I'm off to the butcher's to pick up some beef curtains for Boxing Day. Have a good one,
lovely.
everyone. Stay safe and love to all of you and your families and that, and just keep well. Have a great time.
Fantastic. Ian.
Yeah. Have a fantastic Christmas, everyone, and may the Chutney Channel gods bless you all with whatever you ask for this Christmas.
May it rain chutney on your face.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Or maybe not. Or maybe not. And as always, I'll have the final say. So if you are still watching, a very happy Christmas to you for this weekend. It's a time where you spend it with your loved ones. Certainly doing that myself, as everyone else is. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we will see you on the other side of Christmas. So continue to stay safe in this tricky predicament that we're all in. Stay safe, look after yourselves, don't drink too much, or do, because it's Christmas and it's what the baby Jesus would have wanted. And otherwise he wouldn't have turned water to wine, would he? So a very happy Christmas to you all, and we'll see you next week for the end of the year special. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. See you next Wednesday. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
See you next week.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Tis the season.
Bye.
We're just going to let him carry on.
No, I'm done.
Happy Christmas, everybody. See you next
Bye.
week.
Bye.
Bye.